support their social media.
My name is Najiti Atirene, a crime journalist and not a criminal. Not to waste our time, I'm just going to throw the question to you. Drug abuse being glorified on social media. The Gen Z will say these ones are catching crews, and you just see them posting different, incidents like that. What has been the toughest challenges to get criminals on social media?
We noticed that crimes are also now being promoted or committed on social media. So we've all migrated to those platforms, like I said, to track and also to conduct investigations. That wouldn't pose much of a challenge, but then when you gather information there, you need to physically enforce some of the things you gather there, and it's not been easy because the people who are your targets, you are not going to get them on the roads all the time. You need to get to some places where they are, maybe homes. It's been pretty challenging that even when you have information on somebody, to enforce that information when it has to do with you going into that person's privacy to enforce the law, that's a major challenge. Our operations are intelligence-based, that is, we act on information provided, but then we don't just act on an information provided, we do what we call verification. We try to verify by conducting surveillance. For instance, if you tell me house number 2, drugs are being sold there, I won't just move into house number 2 to arrest or we have to be sure that surveillance is done and ensure that at the time you are going in there are SCB.
Let me come to the convener of EndSARS, the one who actually started the movement, EndSARS, Segalinks. In fact, these days people don't go to police station anymore. They come on social media, especially on Twitter. And I think this is one of the complaints from the police. When you hit them on Twitter, they say, oh, come and report, at the station. How are you able to handle people who come to you to lay complaint about impunity or any kind of crime?
When people come to us, now the essence of building that movement, one, was to bridge that gap between the institution and the people. As at that time, when you have an issue with the police, you are too petrified and you are too traumatized to actually come out to even talk about it because of the mortal retribution to your person. So based on that, we need to create something like a stopgap that a place where people can come to express what they have been through, so that we can now begin to take it on. And we are glad today that we're no longer doing that as an ad hoc program, like a stopgap. It has now become law. Law in the sense that for the first time, the albatross of 90 years rule of impunity have been brought to a stop because there is a policy and a law in Nigeria today that has reinforced the police system and have repositioned them for service delivery. You don't even need to call SEGA anymore because there is a system that has been built within the police system itself for internal, as an internal mechanism that actually corrects itself, and we are monitoring this as well. So when people come to us, before now, we have a system through which we manage those information across Nigeria. But today, we have used this system that we have to reinforce and strengthen the institution so that they can actually deliver service to the people better.
I'm going to come to you, Pamela. EndSARS, I'm sure you definitely was a huge part of it. As a social media influencer, how are you able to push the narrative using hashtags? I know Mr. Oshino spoke about using the right hashtags. How are you able to push the narrative to, for you to have caught the fire you caught?
Something about hashtags is, unlike other social media platforms here, it's easy to track. So when you click on an hashtag, you could easily see what everyone is saying on that particular hashtag. I want to check what people are talking. For example, there's traffic on Ikorodu Road. I just have to type Ikorodu, and I will see what everything is happening. One way or the other, someone on that same road has tweeted and said, guys, if you are going to Ojuelegba, if you are going to so, avoid this route. Okay? So for hashtags, it's easy for people to say, oh, this is what is happening, and you could easily track. During that period, it was a big ass movement. You know, people could say, oh, this is social report on the island, this is social report on the mainland, this is what's happening in Magodo, this is what's happening in Keja. So it's a great thing.
They were just happening at the same time.
So, and we could easily, even though we are not there, for those not in Ikorodu, I know what is happening in Ikorodu. If there's ceasefire in Ikorodu, we can easily call the right authority for that. You get right from Magodo or right from the island. So using the right hashtag, like the first speaker said, is actually very good.
Omar Ehiri, being a brand specialist and communication expert, one of the many common things among the youth is trusting the police. And you know, the police are trying to bridge the gap, trying to get back their trust from the youth and the public. As a communication expert, how would you prefer solutions?
If you ask me this question before NSAS or at the heat of NSAS, I'll say just do a complete overhaul. Like really. But that's really unrealistic. You cannot clear out the entire police force, because then you'll be giving room for crime. I think the first thing for them to do is what they are trying to do now, which is make friends with these influencers that you think are your enemies, make friends with people who actually have that influence to drive, you know, the communication or the information to the heart of the people you're trying to reach. And then we have some police force, I don't know if I'm allowed to call their names, so I'm just going to leave them out, who are trying to be, so when you tweet something or when they see something, immediately they're jumping on it and say, oh no, this should not be happening, I think you should do this. I mean, a couple of times I've seen even the police tell us how we should be safe in certain areas, what we should be doing, what we should, you know, how we should guard ourselves, and even trying to make us their friends by telling us, look, if this person does this thing to you, then really you should report it and we'll step in. That's the only way you can gain our trust, because it's
still very difficult to gain the trust of the people.
Extremely difficult, but baby steps, baby steps. We would eventually trust you. So you want to make sure that you're doing routine check all the time and ensuring that you are not just profiling people just because they look a certain way, drive a certain car, or you see that they're doing a certain... No, get your facts and then we'll trust you.
And can we have a round of applause for them? A round of applause, please. Okay. Okay,